When the thing you really want to do goes wrong, what do you do? The answer depends on how you look at it. For my guest on this week's Fearless Forward podcast, an early setback in her life became the gift that kept on giving. I'm Sally Aneri, and welcome to Fearless Forward, the podcast that asks leaders how they faced their fears. Today, I'm in conversation with a woman who's devoted her life to the service of others and now in midlife is shining in a leadership role she never expected. Esther Taylor is CEO of the Lady Macadam Breast Cancer Trust, a local charity based at Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, and which this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Breast cancer remains the most common form of cancer in the UK. Around 57,000 new cases are diagnosed every year, and organisations such as hers are in the front line of a long-standing and successful campaign to improve long-term survivability. Esther's trust focuses on providing practical and emotional support to patients and their families and promoting breast health awareness and education across Essex. Esther originally trained as a teacher. As well as taking time out to be a full-time mother to her two daughters, she's always been passionate about the charity sector. I love that you can have a real impact and make a difference in people's lives, she says. Over the years, she's worked in a string of charities, including founding a children's charity with her husband. She's made a habit of stepping into opportunities as they arise, and 3 years ago, a chance encounter started a chain of events that led her to taking on her current role. Since then, she's been on a mission to change and maximize the Trust's impact in the community. So, Esther, this is your first CEO role, and it's a big one. How does it feel?
Yeah, well, I'm 3 years into it now. I think if you'd asked me that at the start, I'd have said very daunting, a lot to take in, a lot to learn. But 3 years down the line, and I really enjoy it. I've got an amazing team, and I've been able to bring about some really good changes for the charity and kind of update it a bit, which has been really exciting and an exciting phase and stage as a charity. So being able to lead it is a real privilege.
And what kind of changes have you brought about?
So when I first started working for the charity, we were just concentrating on educating and raising awareness about breast cancer. The charity has a long history locally. It was the first place to offer women their mammograms before the NHS even offered them. And the decision was made to stop doing that coming out of lockdown for a number of reasons, but mainly because our machine was breaking and our system was quite convoluted. And also, women now get their mammograms on the NHS, and the system they have is absolutely amazing. You go in, it's a kind of almost one-stop shop. If they discover anything, they'll do further tests there, and it's all very quick and effective. So the focus was on education and raising awareness. And I think that's always going to be part of what we do. However, with the internet and all the information that's out there, there's less need for it. There's always going to be people that want it face to face. I have a team of nurses that anyone can book in with. But through the way that our nurses were starting to work, they were starting to do a lot for advocacy for women who were discovering something was wrong. They'd found a lump or they'd got a rash, trying to get in to see their doctors and struggling to get a GP appointment. So our nurses have started to advocate on behalf of those women and actually phoning up the GP and saying, we need you to see this person as a matter of urgency. Off the back of that, they're then doing follow-up calls to check that the lady or man has been seen and that they've been referred if necessary, and they've found out what the outcome is of the issue. So that's meant that we've started to pick up the women and men who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, which we weren't really having anything to do with before. And through conversations with them, it's become very clear that actually there's a lack of support. You know, the NHS is amazing in what they do, but they have very limited time they can offer people, especially going through their diagnosis and treatment. So we looked at what we could do as a charity to fill that gap. We visited another charity in London that do support services for people and were completely blown away by their setup. And I came out of there going, that's what I want, but in Essex. And so we've started small scale. We had a complete renovation of our building. downstairs to create a safe, welcoming, peaceful environment. People have commented that they feel like it's a spa when they walk in. There's nothing clinical about it. And yeah, we run a whole program of sessions to support someone who's either going through or has had breast cancer. So things from Pilates to reflexology to advice about nutrition. We've had information sessions around chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all of that kind of stuff. And our nurses are also then supporting those people that come in with one-to-one sessions. We're also offering counselling as well, because again, the wait on the NHS, unfortunately, you're looking at probably a year, and we're able to offer it straight away when actually it's needed most. Yeah, it's been a full on year developing all of that side of things. So
Fantastic. And what I love about what I'm hearing there is that you noticed where the gap was and you looked at how to fill that.
yeah,
You kind of regenerated in that sense. You realized that what you had been doing was not optimally useful, but not
yeah,
as good as it could be. And you started asking, I guess, the right questions,
yeah,
which brought you to where you are now. And I'm imagining anyone with a cancer diagnosis, breast cancer diagnosis, will benefit enormously from having someone walking with them.
yeah, absolutely.
You're walking with them, aren't you?
Yeah.
Through all the different services that you provide in a holistic way.
Yes, absolutely. So we're able to do what the NHS unfortunately can't do. You know, they'd love to be like, we've had our local breast unit say, we'd love to be able to do what you're doing, but they just don't have the capacity, the funding, the time. So we're able to add on to what they do, which is really good.
Yes, working in a complementary way in that sense, plugging that gap.
Absolutely.
And also the advocacy part. How wonderful
Mm,
that your team, your nurses will do that,
yeah.
proactively step in and say, look, you need to bring this person further up the queue.
Yeah, we've heard some some sad stories in some ways. I mean, we had one lady last year who, by the time she came to us, was really stressed out. She'd been trying to get hold of her GP or get an appointment with her GP for over a month. And every time she phoned up, she was told it was emergency appointments only. She didn't feel it was an emergency. I'd argue it probably was, but she didn't feel it was, so therefore didn't push forward. Yeah, by the time she came to us, she was really stressed because her symptoms had got worse as well. And our nurse phoned her GP on the Thursday night. She had an appointment the Friday morning. She was referred straight away. And unfortunately, she did have cancer, and in my mind, that month was too long. She shouldn't have had to wait that long. So we were able to kind of hopefully bridge that gap and reduce that time frame for people that have got concerns. So
Yes. I'm imagining, some of us are pushy, we'll elbow our way to the front,
yeah,
and others of us won't. And for those who won't, you're there to support them.
yeah.
So, and this is throughout Essex, isn't it? So, presumably also part of what you do is communicating that you're there, making sure people realize that you're there to support them.
Yes.
That's an enormous part of it, I imagine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still quite a big piece of work that we've got to do because Lady Macadam was a household name for a long time for a lot of households that they knew of Lady Macadam because that's where women came for their mammograms. And when we stopped doing them, the assumption, and we also were based at the hospital, but we've moved building. And the assumption was made when we moved building and when we stopped doing the mammograms that actually we ceased existence. So a lot of people were surprised when we say, oh, we work for Lady Macadam. They were like, oh, we didn't think it existed anymore. Yeah, we've had to do quite a big piece of work around actually raising our profile again and going, we're here and this is what we're doing. And actually, it's our 50th anniversary this year.
Oh,
And it's providing us a really good opportunity to celebrate that and actually reinstate what we're doing and go out saying that. So, yeah, it's an exciting time.
yeah. Very exciting. There's something about a round number anniversary, isn't there, that feels momentous, and it is momentous. And you're reinventing yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what about you as a leader through all of this, this big role, big change, big transformation?
Yeah.
How does it feel for you?
So I think I've had to grow a lot and develop in my confidence, in my own ability. It's great in that it's given me quite a lot of opportunity. I'm quite a creative person. I like to be quite innovative, and actually working and directing this charity has been able to give me that space to do that. which has been really good. And we've done some pretty crazy things.
Have you?
So,
What kind of crazy?
well, when I first started, so I started in the March, and we had the opportunity to take over an empty shopping unit in one of our local shopping malls. And I mean, it's a massive shop. If I say H&M used to be in it, that will give you an idea of size.
Gosh.
One of our trustees at the time was working for this shopping mall, so he was able to get it for us. And we were like, what could we do with this big space? We'd got another shop. We were running a pop-up shop for prom dresses and bride dresses. And my eldest daughter had said at the time, Mum, we need a selfie wall. Like, everybody loves taking a selfie. But we didn't have space in the shop to do that. So when this opportunity for this unit came up, I was like, what could we do? And then she'd recently been to, there's a place in London called the Selfie Factory, and it's just got loads of different selfie stations. And I was like, what about if we created our own selfie factory? And so we did. And we opened it. It was a lot of hard work. I had to oversee, we had an amazing guy who does set building, and he came and created the bare bones of each selfie station. And then we had to decorate it and kit it out. And so we had one that had a bath in it with pink balls. And we actually did have a massive pink ball pit, which was huge. And then we had ones where we have a whole load of knitted boobs. A local knitting group had made us. So we had a knitted boob wall that the whole wall was covered in these knitted boobs. And so it was about raising awareness about breast cancer. So we had lots of posters up around the stats and how to get help and what to look out for. And then there was some that were just for fun. So we ended up with, I think it was 12 different stations within this selfie factory. People paid an entrance, which was minimal. And yeah, we had it open for the whole summer. It nearly killed me working on setting it up, but it was worth it. We raised, I think it was over £10,000.
Gosh.
And we spoke to over 1,000 women in detail about breast cancer.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it was interesting because it was originally I'd aimed it at teenagers, thinking actually, as a mum of teenagers, it's not something we're very good at talking to our teenage girls and boys about. And actually, they need to be aware of the signs and symptoms. So it was aimed actually at teenagers, but we actually found it was young mums that came in because we had this big ball pit and they just wanted to put their kids in the ball pit. So we actually didn't have many teenagers, but we still had a lot of conversations that were really good and really worthwhile. And again, I think it helped raise our profile within the locality.
Yeah, so it helped raise your profile. You learned a lot. What did you learn in that process that you perhaps hadn't fully understood before?
Particularly for the charity sector, I think it's that actually we need to be thinking more outside the box. We need to approach things creatively and differently. I think going out to people with a straightforward ask for money is not necessarily working anymore. I think it does in some circumstances, but I think if you can engage people in something that raises money as well as helping you achieve what you're trying to achieve as a charity, then it's a good way of doing it. I think it made me realise that things like that are possible. You know, if somebody had said to me, oh, you're going to create a selfie factory, I'd have been like, what? So I think it's that actually having the confidence to think outside the box and go with it.
You sound, I mean, you've said we a lot, so you sound like a very collaborative, inclusive leader. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, absolutely. I very much see the work we do as a team. Like, we are a team. It's not just me. You know, everybody has a really important part to play, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them. So yeah, it's very much a we, not me, working for this charity.
Yeah. And you are, by any definition, a can-do person, aren't you? I mean, that's very clear from what you've said, even in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think my whole career journey has been that approach. I actually started off training as a teacher. That's what I'd always wanted to be as right from a small child. I loved being with children, and that's what I'd always decided I wanted to do. So I trained as a teacher. And I think soon became very aware that actually it wasn't the rose tinted view that I had of it, unfortunately. And actually didn't pass my university degree because I had such a rough time in my final practice. My college, unfortunately, weren't very good at supporting me. And my confidence had been really knocked by my second year practice, which I had passed. And kids are very perceptive when it comes to how somebody's feeling. And they picked up on the fact that I wasn't confident and played on that.
Mm.
There were times where I would stand in front of the class in tears because I just lost all control of the class and just couldn't do it. And so initially I walked away from 3 years at university with nothing, but I'd done my dissertation and I actually pushed the university to recognise the theoretical work that I'd done. And after a lot of toing and froing, but a lot of me pushing and saying, this is what I want, they eventually acknowledged that and awarded me a degree in education. So I did come out of it with a degree, which, I was quite relieved with, having accumulated debt and everything. I then wasn't sure what I was going to do. I ended up working for a local organisation where I was based. I was in Greenwich at the time, and they were a charity. Part of what they did was schools work. And my boss at the time said, "We're going to do schools work, secondary." And I was like, "No, we're not. Not if primary school kids can do that to me. Secondary school kids will eat me alive. Like, that's not going to happen." So he said, "Well, how do you feel about actually working that through?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, if we supported you by giving you therapy, would you be up for that?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Wow.
And so I went through a series of therapy sessions, and it was probably one of the best things that I ever did. I was able to understand why I'd got to that point of not feeling confident, why I'd allowed the children to rule the class, as it were.
Mm.
And yeah, had a much greater understanding of myself and how I'd got to that point.
I'm curious, would you mind sharing with us what you discovered about yourself that had taken you to that point?
It basically boiled down to just having a lack of confidence in myself and my own ability. And therefore, that was projected into the class. And I think actually understanding that I had got skills and things to offer, and understanding that I did have something worth sharing was really helpful. And I did then go on and do schools work
Fantastic.
and was fine with it. Then I met my now husband very randomly through the voluntary work that I was doing. And he was living in Bath, and I moved up to Bath. And we happened to be at a party. And I ended up chatting to a lady who happened to be at the time head of support services at Bath University. And she was in a bit of a stress because she'd got this massive conference that she was supposed to be putting on, and the person running it had walked out on her, and she had no one to run this conference. And I was, of course, looking for work. So I just turned around to her, "I'm sure I can do that." She's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, not be that difficult."
So you became cocky, really. You went from super underconfident to like...
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I ended up running this conference for Bath University on dyslexia.
Wow.
Yeah, had to organise the speakers attending, getting the tickets sold, overseeing all the delegates, the entertainment on the Saturday night. It was a whole weekend thing. I hit the ground running and the conference was a success. And at that point, then Will and I actually we were looking to move back to Essex because my family are in Essex, and we were looking to move back. And again, I was looking for work. So somebody said to me, "You do realise you can teach in the private sector without being a qualified teacher?" And I was like, "Oh, really?" So I wrote round to all the private schools that I knew were going to be in the area we were, asking had they got any vacancies. And one of them came back saying they were looking for a Senko. So I managed to apply and blag my way into a Senko role in a private school.
Can you spell out Senko for us, for anyone who may not know what that is?
Special Educational Needs Coordinator.
Okay.
And actually, I ended up doing more teaching than I did the Senko role. So I ended up actually teaching secondary art and English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was mad. But I really enjoyed the art because that gave me an outlet for my creativity. But after a while of being there, they said to me, we really do need to get you qualified. And I'd done it long enough to know that actually it wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I decided to leave at that point. I then got my first actual official role in the charity sector, working for a national charity as their admin assistant. And within a couple of months of being there, an events fundraiser role had come up. And I said to my boss, actually, I'd really like to do that. And that interests me. And so I became their events fundraiser and did events for a couple of years. And again, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was quite full on. We were doing events for a couple of thousand people. And the charity that I worked for had the Royal Princess Anne as their patron. So there was a lot of liaising with the royal family because she would attend some of our events. So yeah, but didn't enjoy the commuting. I was having to commute into London every day and didn't enjoy that. And we were also at the point of trying for a family too. So ended up working back locally, just doing some part-time work. And then I took a break to have our two girls. We were in a fortunate position where we didn't need me to work financially. So I was able to step back and have our girls, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But even during that time, I mean, I think I've always, if I see a gap, I try to fill it. So when my eldest was 3 months old, I'd been going to a breastfeeding support group, which we'd come to the end of. And I'd met one of my now best friends at it. And we both wanted to go to a mother and baby group together to carry on. And when we looked into what was available locally, there wasn't anything because they were all full. So I was like, oh, I'll just start one up then. So within probably a space of about 3 to 6 months, I actually had 3 running a week.
My goodness.
All with between 20 and 25 mums at each group. And I did that for until my youngest. There's a 2-year gap between them. I did that till she was probably 6 months to a year old. I did it for a couple of years, which was good fun. Hard work.
You're not afraid of hard work, are you, Esther?
No. If I want to get something done, I'll get it done. And I don't hang around to do it. So yeah.
No, you see the gap and in you go.
Yeah.
If you're not afraid of hard work, what are you afraid of?
That's a good question. I think probably fearful of not being able to do a good enough job. I'm always willing to give something a go, even if it's outside of my expertise or my area of comfort. But yeah, I guess there's always a fear of, am I doing it well enough? And actually, when you're a leader, it's quite hard to know whether you're doing a good job because you don't necessarily get feedback.
Yes.
And so it can be you can be a little bit in the dark about it. You know when you're not doing a good job quite often because people will complain or tell you. But yeah, when you're doing a good job, you don't necessarily get told. Yeah, I think that's probably, I would say, has been my biggest fear. And also, I think working in the job that I work now, it's very full on. You know, I work full time and I'm aware there are times where I come home and I'm not very present for my family because I have a lot on my mind. And so I think there's a fear of, am I sacrificing my role as mum in order to do this? I think my girls would say no, I wasn't. But yeah, I think this role, more than any, I've probably had the worst mum guilt just because it demands so much of me.
Yeah, how do we show up fully in all the different aspects of our lives when they're so full, when the life is so full? It's a tricky, very tricky one for all of us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and also like balancing friendships as well, it's really hard when you're full time and trying to see friends and keep up with friends and making sure you're messaging. And yeah, that can be quite hard.
And I love that question, how do you know when you're doing a good job? You want to do a good job, you care very much about it, and you have a fear of not doing that. But how do you know? And I wonder if it's the uncertainty of that keeps that, kind of feeds that fear a bit, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. And it's that, I think the question around like, what impact am I having? And again, I don't know. I don't think we're very good at telling people they're doing a good job or how they've impacted you. I often think that when you go to a funeral, you hear how amazing the person has been, the impact they've had. And I've often come away from funerals going, that's actually really sad, that I wonder whether they knew actually that they'd had this impact.
Mm.
I had it, unfortunately, not last year, the year before. A friend suddenly died very quickly. She's only the same age as me. She was also CEO of a charity. And the funeral, the thing that stood out was just she'd had such incredible impact on so many people.
Mm.
And I was just like, wow, if only she could see the impact that she'd had, I think she'd have been quite blown away.
Gosh. So, another gap, potentially, Esther.
Yep.
Doing it for ourselves is tricky if we're not into self promotion, particularly, and we just want to do a good job and
Yeah.
hope it's recognized implicitly almost. But I suppose in the culture of your organization, recognition is something that you could encourage. And I'm imagining you probably do. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think I try and consciously thank my staff on a regular basis for the work that they're doing. Yeah, I'm very intentional about that and try and make sure that they know that actually what they're doing is really good and that I really appreciate the work they've done. I had a couple of days off last week, some annual leave, and the day before when I finished, everybody had gone home and I just left a little cream egg and a little note to each person just saying, thank you, I appreciate your hard work and I appreciate you,
Mm.
and just left that for everybody. So, yeah, I try and do small things like that because I think that sometimes those can have the greatest impact.
Yes, I would tend to agree with that. And I'm very curious to hear it in your words, though. What is it about the small things you think that have the greatest impact?
I think it's the fact that someone's taken the time to acknowledge that they appreciate what you're doing.
Mm.
I think when, the work we do is really full on and we can be busy a lot of the time. And so it's easy to get caught up in that busyness. And so just taking a moment out to go, actually, do you know what? You're doing a really good job.
Mm.
I appreciate you. I think is really important.
Yeah, it can be such a lift to the day, can't it?
Yeah.
And also, what I'm hearing is the sincerity in that. Sometimes, grand gestures may not be insincere, but, can come over that way, can't they? The smaller, more authentic, thoughtful actions can be so much more powerful. So, taking a step back for a moment, Esther, and looking at where you are in your life and your career and how you feel about it all, what are you noticing about the sense of direction you have in terms of what you want to achieve?
I think one of the things that I often wrestle with is that, getting the balance between working a high level job, like when you're in leadership, there is a cost to that. It is mentally draining, it's physically draining, but, there's also benefits. You're paid more, that kind of thing. So getting that balance, and I think getting a balance of working hard and playing hard as well. I think I'm kind of at that point in my life where I'm going, actually, I don't want to wait till I retire to do the things that I want to do.
Mm.
And you hear it so often that somebody retires and then gets ill and can't do the things. I don't want that to be the case. I want to do the things that I want to do now.
Mm.
And so just trying to make time for that, making time for family. My girls are going to be 20 and 18 this year.
Mm.
They're becoming a lot more independent. So again, it's that making the most of the time that we have with them. So I think getting that balance, but also, I think as women, I feel I've been slightly penalised by taking time out as a mum. I feel like I've had to play catch up with, like, compared to friends that didn't take that break. They're further ahead in their careers than I am, although I've managed to jump a few steps and catch up quite quickly. I'm now at that point of going, actually now is a time that I want to develop and grow my career, like, and thinking about what does that look like. I've probably got another, I was saying to somebody the other day, I've probably got another 15, 20 years in me to work.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like?
Mm.
And how can I have impact in a positive way?
So these are the questions you're asking yourself at this point of your life.
Yeah.
And may I ask, again, as a evolving woman, what are you noticing about how the changes that we all go through are impacting any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I said to somebody the other day, gosh, you get to this age in your life and it feels like it should be easier and you should have that freedom and what have you. And yet the delightful menopause kicks in, and physically, I've not felt in a particularly great place when it comes to my physical health. The tiredness and some of the brain fog and, yeah, just lack of energy at times can be really frustrating, because I'm at that point where I'm like, right, this is it. I want to launch. I've got to go off and do these things. And my body is going, no, it's time for you to slow down. I'm like, no, it's not. My husband and I were talking about it, saying, we live in a society where probably years ago, women our age would start slowing down. They wouldn't probably be working either. And actually, they would be able to slow down because their kids were getting older and needing less of their time. And so it would be a gentle, natural progression to slow down. We don't have that in our society now. The expectation is that women will keep working. And I think, as for me, as I say, I'm in that place of my children need me less. And I'm at a point where I'd quite like to see my career develop. But actually, it's hard physically. It's hard because I'm not feeling the best physically that I have done. So, yeah, it can be frustrating at times, especially as someone in leadership as well, because I think people expect you to power through and keep going and do well.
Yeah. And do you have conversations about that? Given that you're working with women for mainly women, is that something you talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things I've learned as a leader is that actually it's okay at times to be vulnerable with your staff and actually admit that you're struggling too. I think it's okay to do that.
Yes.
And actually, it then sometimes gives permission for other people to go, well, actually, I hear you and I'm struggling as well with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely something that we talk about. And I would hope that as a leader, I'm empathetic and sympathetic to those needs and to needs of women generally. Like, I have women who work for me who are young mums. So I'm very flexible with their working time. So if they need to go to a school assembly or whatever, they can come in late. Or if the kid's ill and they need to work at home, that's fine. I am, in that respect, pretty flexible.
Yes. Because it's a reality of life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way, when you step back and look at it, it would be sheer madness not to acknowledge the reality and work with it. But quite often what happens is that we crack on pretending it's not there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is frustrating. And I wonder if the frustration comes from a fear of not being able to accomplish what we really want to in life.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think, again, working in the world of cancer, that it's very prevalent. And I think that's where I don't want to put off doing the things that I want to do, because you don't know what's around the corner. So, if anything, it's taught me to not put things off.
Mm. Yes, my goodness, you must be reminded of that on a practically daily basis, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose a gratitude there, you haven't used this word, but I'm hearing a gratitude for what you have, the gifts you've been given that you want to use to the full, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think not taking every day for granted. Every day is a blessing.
Absolutely. Well, Esther, I'm sure everyone listening here will join me in saying, thanking you, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And that you did, thank goodness. You got the help you needed way back
Yeah.
to reframe the story in your mind that you weren't good enough when you absolutely were. And what a difference that made to the choices you went on to make, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be in this job if I hadn't changed that mindset. I was actually supposed to be joining the trustee board for this charity, and the previous CEO was resigned because she had another job to go to. And she actually approached me and said, actually, Esther, I'd like you to consider being the next CEO.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, absolutely. I'll give it a go.
You didn't hesitate?
No, I didn't. No.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So looking at where you are now, everything you've achieved and, looking into the future as best we can, what does Fearless Forward mean to you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about what is fear, and fear is a response to threat.
Mm.
And I think often we can see the unknown, like new jobs or new possibilities, as actually a threat rather than seeing them as opportunity. And I think for me, I've learnt to see those things as opportunities, an opportunity to grow and develop. And so rather than seeing the unknown as a threat, actually seeing it as an opportunity.
Well, step by step, Esther, wishing you the very best of luck with all of that.
Thank you. Thanks, Sally.
When Esther sees a gap, she moves towards it quickly, boldly, and she often steps into it before she's fully ready. This can-do instinct has served her well. She's achieved a lot, and still is. And now, she's grappling with the reality of being a woman in midlife. Just as all her experience, skill, and wisdom reaches its peak, her body is asking for something different, to slow down, rest more, and this can feel frustrating as someone who sees how much there is still to do. Listening to this, can you relate? I know I can. So perhaps the invitation here is to listen more closely to where in your life and work you're being called to step into the gap, and where strength has become so habitual that you no longer notice the cost. Thank you for listening. Fearless Forward is edited and produced by Rob Lawrence. I'll be back with you in 2 weeks for our next conversation about how leaders have faced their fears. To be sure of catching it, go to fearlessforward.org or subscribe to my weekly bulletin at skillfulleaders.com.